You can tell them that it works now, so this will be fun. There it is. I could hear it. Yeah, let me see. All right, perfect. That'll work now. We are wherever we are now.
Yes. So it's, just kind of trial by error. And my dad he always tells me, you're not going to make any money just sitting on the couch. And so, I mean, while it's not that eloquent, it's true.
It's
and
accurate.
So because this is our family business, nobody's going to do it for us. And so if it's me watching TV on a Monday night trying to send out some emails, that's what it is. Or if it's my husband who makes some cold calls in New Orleans because he's making a delivery, and so he's going to, stop at a couple of other restaurants.
While he's there?
While he's there, exactly. Yeah. So, that's what we're
that
trying
part
to do.
Really, I mean, that whole part of it, that it's your family, like on the bottle, it's your name. I mean,
right.
How does that factor into all of it?
It just kind of, we never really
maybe
thought
don't really think about it. I mean,
we never really, thought like, okay, well, let's think of this some fantastic name of the lemonade. It was always like, well, my dad created it, so let's put his name on there. And we liked that. And we thought that, when we decided to enhance the logo, we thought, well, we're going to use the caricature of him.
I know, like
because, it was just the idea of you go to an event and you walk up to the lemonade booth and you're going to meet Roy.
Yeah.
And, it's...
You'll know it's Roy because
exactly, it's his picture, and there are some Roy Lemonade fans who love that, and who want him to sign their cup, and or who want to take their picture with them, and we just really liked that idea of connecting with people who loved our lemonade and having the ability for them to connect with us. It just was like a layer that was not there with other festival vendors.
Sure.
And it's really not there in the beverage world. At Wendy's, before Dave passed away, you knew Dave was with Wendy's. It was his baby.
Yeah.
And so that's what we really liked about the idea of identifying my dad with the lemonade.
Yeah, of having that connection.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't know. So, what little kids are being told to sell lemonade now in the family? Like, is it like, all right, this is gonna be you?
Well, so my husband and I, we have my husband and I have 2 daughters, 17 and 18.
That's right.
And they help us occasionally. But I mean, I can remember that 17-year-old me, and begrudgingly going to work at Festival International or whatever.
Yeah.
So we get that from our kids as well. But I just
think, you secretly which one's going to take over?
Oh yeah, my husband and I have already had conversations about well, this one's going to be.
Listen, you're going to be in charge.
Right,
just,
right.
Tell her whatever you got to tell her, but you're going to be the one.
Right,
who's running
right, exactly. You take the money.
Exactly.
Don't let her pour the lemonade.
She's the lemonade pourer. She's
right. She can ice the cups. Don't let her take the money.
She's a great gal.
Right. So hopefully, they will grow to love it and appreciate it as much as I do, and as much as my husband does. But if they go off and have their own dreams, that's fine too.
Yeah, you've also got a roasted nut company or a cotton candy company.
Cotton candy, yes, exactly.
There are other options that are out there.
Right.
Were there things that along the way, or since you've been involved, were there some things that were easier than you thought, and some things that you thought would be easier but then they weren't?
Yes. And I think this is attributed to the fact of, we really had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
So, for instance, when we wanted to grow the distribution side, I thought, and I think my dad would say the same thing, I thought, once we get a Cisco or a Benny Keith or, once we get that distributor, okay, we can just
your hands will be off.
Oh, this is it. This is right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
And and so we've had episodes like that over the course of our growth where it's like once that happens, then it's all good.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. Which
never.
In reality, why would you even think that?
Yeah.
That's not how life works.
Yeah.
Because it's only going to grow in a positive manner with your attention. Yeah. I mean, if I put up a lemonade stand at the corner, and if I don't work that lemonade stand every day, and I just decide, oh, well, you know what, I'm going to give it to you, Jonathan, and I'll check back with you in about a month.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there would be...
There'll be days that I don't want to go.
Right, exactly. And there'd be like, hey, you think it'd be a great idea if you put some blueberries in it, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I'll start to mess with the formula.
Exactly. Yeah. So, if you don't tend to it, it's not going to grow as you envision it to grow.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, has been one of the lessons that I've learned, that there is no autopilot.
Yeah.
There's nobody who is going to take our business and grow it like we want to grow it, and also care for it like we want to care for it.
Yeah.
We have seen episodes where distributors want to cut corners, and that's just not who we are. Yeah. And that's not something that we'd want to put our name on.
Yeah.
So
and that's a part of this that maybe you wouldn't have thought about.
Exactly.
From the standpoint of how much you have to watch these distributors.
Exactly.
As far as the quality of the product, because at the end of the day, it's your name, not the distributor.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that has been something that has kind of I think surprised me, but on the other hand, well, I'm like, really, they don't have anything invested in it. Why would they not care for it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a piece of it for all entrepreneurs, I think, is they're attached to their product, which is why they care so much.
Right.
But it's also what they have to remember, that the moment that you trust someone else with it, they don't care as much as you do.
Right, exactly.
And that just is what it is.
Right.
And so you got to figure out maybe where are the spaces where if I turn this over to you, you're not going to care as much as I do. But that's an area that doesn't matter as much, and so I'm less concerned.
Well, and it's also maybe an area that I'm not skilled at.
Sure, yeah.
And so I'm going to have to, hopefully identify someone who I can put my trust in to then carry my baby over the threshold. Yeah. There are plenty of areas that we are not that knowledgeable about, and so it's kind of like we prioritize.
Yeah.
And see, okay, is this something that I want to, I don't know how to build a website, so I'm going to trust somebody to do that. Yeah. So yeah, it's just you just prioritize of what is the advantage greater than the risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Where does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there? I don't know. I mean, I guess as you were growing up, you sort of saw your dad creating this, and so there was a little bit of okay, I understand what creating something is about.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you went to school and you were going to go do your own thing.
Right.
The opportunity to kind of to create. What role does that play? Because for so many of our entrepreneurs, it's that I get to be in charge.
Right.
Not be in charge of be in charge, but I get to control my own destiny in a way. And then we sort of mentioned it a little bit, but you don't want to work next weekend, you don't have to.
Right.
You also don't get paid.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Right. I also don't get a paycheck.
You also don't get a paycheck. But you didn't have to work if you didn't want to.
Right.
Was that something that, I guess, as you saw it, that it became appealing, or was it something that grew?
I think really what it is the ability to kind of set your own schedule, and also to pursue things that in your regular 9-to-5 job you would have never done.
Sure.
I mean, in my other jobs, I would not have been part of let's create a strawberry lemonade.
Yeah.
The idea of, okay, well, how do we want it to taste, and how do we want to package it, and what do we want to create the logo to be like,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think, and what I have taken away from my time working with the family business is the creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we want to go to an event and we want to, um, give away rainbow colored hats that have Roy's on it, that's a great idea. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like wide open.
Yeah.
And I like the appeal of
Mm.
that. Now, that may not necessarily mean that it's going to happen.
Sure.
But it's just the idea of we can do whatever we want.
Mm-hmm.
And if we want to go back to this festival, we can. And if we don't want to, we don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go back, we can do something totally different that we've never done before.
Yeah.
And I like that.
I think that's the part that's interesting, is that you've got such a commitment to the product, but the way you get there is very free flowing.
Yes.
Like, hey, we're going to sell remarkable lemonade.
Yes.
And we're going to do it in a way that aligns with our values and who we want to be. But we might do it in some funky ways just because we want to.
Right.
We want to do this kind of cup this
Right.
year. We want to do this kind of thing this year. And I think that's the piece that sometimes people really enjoy, as long as they remember to get back to the quality. Like, remember to have this one thing that doesn't change, right? Like, we got to remember we're about this.
Right.
Now, we can go here 12 different ways, but we're always going to come back to here.
Right.
You're not going to sit there and be like, let's just do hot dogs next week instead of lemonade. Like, that doesn't make sense.
No, exactly.
That gets out
but there. If it was like, at a festival and National Hot Dog Day was that Saturday, hey, let's do a combo where you're like, you get the Roy's lemonade and you get a free hot dog because it's National Hot Dog Day.
Yeah.
Like, that just has an appeal to it that a lot of other jobs don't.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's a great idea, Cynthia. We'll like put that in the, on the burner.
Yeah. And which is, another kind of thing about that entrepreneurial experience, the entrepreneurial journey, like, is you will rarely, if ever, find a space where your voice is heard as much.
Right.
As at your own company.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it will be. It's just like, oh, that's a great idea. We'll get to it. Never.
Right. Right. And I mean, it's like my dad, me, and my husband. So, we're going to hear each other. Whether we ignore each other, that's something totally different. But, I mean, because we always have, what if we do this? Or what if, so that list is always growing.
Yeah.
And then it's whether or not we prioritize it and have the time and decide it's something that, like, we're really going to commit to. Like, for instance, the bottles.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this because we think it's a great idea. There's a whole segment of the population who never drinks fountain drinks. I'm one of them.
Just forgot they existed.
Yes. I mean, like, I never get a fountain drink.
Yeah.
My daughters love fountain drinks because of the ice. I mean, that's like a whole thing to them. So I go into a convenience store and I go straight to the cooler and I want to grab a ready to drink, so this absolutely appeals to me.
Yeah.
And I just love the idea of I can work with my family and we can create something and it's really whatever we want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, whether we get to it or not, that may be something else.
Yeah.
Because there are only 24 hours in a day, but it's the opportunity.
Yeah. I think and when you mentioned you're just doing it with your family, the idea, like, that you get to, like, win and lose together.
Right.
Like, which, the wins are that much better and the losses are maybe that much harder, because it's all of you. But I think that's a piece that's really different once you start involving more family members.
Right. And
like
I think
the solo entrepreneur, like, dealing with sort of that on their own. But whenever you start to kind of like, hey, it's when you have a good festival,
right,
the feeling that of the three of you driving back home is euphoric. I mean, it's just like, that was great.
Right.
Like, and it was great for us. Like,
right. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's really amazing when I think about what each of us bring to the company.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad, my husband, and I, we're all very different. We have a different skill set, but we have each kind of found where we can prop up the company and what we need to do to make it successful. And I think that's just really something unique that um, in the workplace prior to me coming back into the family business, I never really found that in a corporate world where, Cynthia, this is what you're responsible for. And there may be a little variation of like, oh, whatever your skill set allows you to do. But working for yourself, you really find how your skills can best work the family business and how it can really kind of propel it.
Yeah.
Much more so than in the corporate world,
sort
I
of,
think.
yeah, like this is you stay in this channel versus like all this got to get done.
Right, exactly,
So
exactly.
let's figure out what you're doing today.
Right,
and we'll see what it does tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we've got some people here. Just open it up to any questions of people who are here, and then if we don't have a lot of questions, then I'll figure out another question.
Okay.
But we'll start there.
Okay. Uh-huh. It's running off water. Okay, and so that was an issue. Actually, that was an issue whenever we went to the first round with bottling. So we learned with bottles, product is pushed into a bottle with CO2. So it would slightly carbonate our lemonade. And while it didn't taste bad, it didn't taste like our lemonade. It was like a slightly so that was like, so that was like a whole hurdle we had to come over. But with the bag in the box, it's not carbonated water. It's just regular water. And so when we're on a fountain system, we just have to make sure that the valve is not a carbonated water source. Is it on its own system? It's gravity fed. So when we are at an event, we always ensure that we have a water source, and so we have a bar gun, just like at a bar, and it helps with the speed of dispensing it, but the gravity moves the syrup out of the bag in the box, and we calibrate the bar gun so it's the correct water to syrup ratio, just like on a fountain system. Yeah.
At what point in your life did you think you would know that?
No, it's really great. Like I'm saying these words, and I'm like,
gravity system.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing.
Yeah, like I had a customer this morning who was calling, and she was saying how like, oh, it doesn't taste water, and I'm like, well, it's not calibrated correctly, and I'm like, what am I? I mean, like, I'm a communications major. Like this is not my terminology at all, but it's funny, and you just you learn these things because it's your baby,
you have no
and you need to know these things, and I know.
Other questions? Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. See, she keeps her cups.
That's because she knows. Bring the cup back.
Yes, bring the cup back. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So we started like in 1994 with fairs and festivals. And then we started distribution probably like mid 2000s. And so locally in the Lafayette area, you can find us at Old Time Grocery. You can find us at Dino's or Prejean's. And then in convenience stores, you can find us at Why Not Stop. We're in some ShopRites. And if you want to be more specific, you can always Facebook message me and you say, hey, I live near Lafayette High. I can kind of tell you where you can go to find some lemonade. Thank you very much. That was very sweet. That's us. Yes, we do the Po' Boy Festival. Yes, and we're at the Crawfish Festival, which is coming up in May. So you can see us in Breaux Bridge. My dad is in South Texas right now. He just finished a livestock show in Refugio, Texas, so he's pretty pooped. So he's recuperating
Yeah, I can
for the next
imagine. Well,
next
because
couple
he's
of days.
been in West Texas for like what seems like a
Yes,
month.
yes. Well, he had two really big events.
Yeah.
So my husband and I do events locally, and we're kind of like more like the weekender events, where my dad he can go and he'll do a rodeo, and it's like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So he'll be gone for much longer than we are. We have dependents, so we can't go. I got to get kids to school,
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
of
Your
thing.
kids got to go to school.
Right, right. So yeah, yeah, he's going to be recuperating for a little
Yeah,
while.
I could imagine.
Hmm.
I know, like, entrepreneur, like, creativity, you know, like, have a direct impact on product. I know family business, of course, you, but with it being a family business, what, like, specific advantages did you be able to identify along the way that would differ from, like, maybe people that knew each other and just started our business versus you guys who have years before the business even started
Right,
that know each other?
right.
Communication that we had, mannerisms that are able to be understood.
Yeah,
Kind of explain. I
Hmm.
know, like, y'all are able to have, like mentioned, have those conversations and know what can be said, what can't be said.
right,
It's deeper than that whenever, like, you can know someone and there can still be a little bit of rivalry in the show.
right, right.
Versus years, like, your dad raised you.
Right, 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 right. I know. Right. I think one of the things that you know, I'm a procrastinator. My dad's a procrastinator. So I know, like, if I need a freight quote, I got to stay on his ASS
Yeah.
because he's like I am. And so, earlier today, we have a customer, he wants some bottles. I'm like, okay, I need to get this out. It's going to cost this amount. Okay, well, my dad's tired today because he's been doing an event and he's out having breakfast with his friends. Okay, I'll call you later. I'm like, no, no, no. Where if I was in like a real corporate setting, I would have to take that no, no, no
Yeah.
and just wait
Yeah.
on my hands. Where I just called the customer and was like, hey, this is what it's going to be. Are you interested? Where my dad's not offended by that. Where if I was in a corporate setting, I could be stepping on toes. So there's that, and there's also I know that my husband and my dad love the company as much as I do. And so we are all striving for the same thing. And I'm not thinking about, okay, well, how much time off am I going to get next week because it's my annual leave or, whatever. I know that our intentions are all the same. And so whether it's a procrastination or whatever the case may be, um, I know his heart's there, and I know that he wants us to succeed. So I think the familiarity that you're talking about really is a benefit and really helps us grow the company because we know each other's idiosyncrasies,
Hmm.
and we don't necessarily have to. They don't have to become roadblocks for us. We know that,
Yeah.
if I want to sleep all day because I've been working 12 hours for the last 4 days, somebody else will pick up the ball
Yeah.
and take care of it. And I don't have to be offended by that because that's my role, and that's not their role.
Yeah.
We don't really have that, which I think is because of the familiarity.
That's where it might be different with friends.
Right.
It's a lot easier for a friendship to fizzle out than
Sure. Sure.
Like, not that, listen, not all, sometimes family is, you just sort of remove family, but like, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's a lot harder. And
right.
You have levels of, but I think what you just said was interesting. The idea, the humility that it requires to sometimes be like, someone else can take care of that because it's not mine to own.
Right.
I think there's something there because like a lot of times we will be very protective of like, no, I do the marketing. I make the
exactly.
posts. I make the.
Right.
If someone else does it, what happens,
Right.
versus this idea of like, I'm just trying to go to sleep. I'm
Right.
tired.
Right.
Like, if
It's
I don't
like
do it, who cares?
our
Like,
significance is not diminished if I do something versus he's doing it. You know, we're all significant members here, and we're all needed. And so, just because he can't do it today, or I can't do it today, and my husband does it, it doesn't matter. We're not keeping score.
yeah,
You know, it's about propelling us forward.
that's such an interesting notion, just because for entrepreneurs, sometimes they feel like they're the only ones who can do it,
Right.
especially if you're a solo entrepreneur. But even like, like, I'm the only one who can do it to the level that I want it to be done, and that's fine. But if you feel like that, then you can only grow so much.
Right. And that's very dangerous, you know, because that mindset, why, you know, and this is a perfect example. And this is why me and my dad don't do events too often, because
I like the idea of like, we don't actually do a lot of events together, because this is why he had to go to
because like,
Texas,
you know,
and
he
like,
thinks the bottles should be set here, which are great, and I think they should be set here. Well, like, they're both equally
yeah, they cost the same.
right, and they're both achieving the so like when we do events, I usually have a booth, and then he has a booth. So like I can set the bottles how I want. Yeah, and he can set them how he wants. And because like when you get into a groove and you're serving lemonade and you have a line of 30 people, you need to know when I grab right there, that cup's going to be there, or whatever the case may be. So like your perspective as how you like to work is not necessarily better than mine. It's just different. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that has taken us some while
Yeah.
for all of us to like recognize it's okay if that's how you like to work it.
Yeah.
I'm left-handed, so I like things a certain way. He's
Absolutely.
right, you know.
You like things the correct way.
Exactly. The right way.
Exactly. All these right-handed people trying to tell us what to do.
Right.
That's all right.
So,
Whatever.
you know, it's just about just acknowledging that, like, okay, that's fine if you want it like that, and this is how I want it. You know, we just need to all just kind of keep moving forward.
Yeah. Remember, the humility aspect of entrepreneurship is absolutely necessary if you want to reach a certain level, because at some point,
and you can hold it so tightly that you could smother it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
it can't grow if you're just blocking all light and oxygen to get into it.
Right. And I think, you know, my dad has recognized that, and so that's why he has been so generous and so willing for us to kind of step in and say, hey, what if we do this, or, you know, whatever the case may be, because, you know, he can only do so much.
Yeah.
And if he wants this to really grow, 3 minds are better than 1.
Yeah, it can't be just him.
Right.
I wish we could talk about this part of it, I think, for the next 2
Oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, just this idea.
And I mean, like, I have that tendency.
Sure.
He has that tendency. My husband, maybe to a certain degree. He's probably the most laid back.
He's not allowed to have the tendency.
Yeah.
He's not a direct family. Like, he got brought in. Like, at any
not,
point, he could go back out to where he came.
It's
like,
so funny because, like,
like,
we talk about, like, you know, my name is almost on the cup. Like, when my husband will say, like, hey, what do you want to do? And I'll say, well, let's do this. And he's like, well, yeah, because your name is almost on the cup. You know?
Yeah, this is one of those situations where there are 3 people, but 2/3 of those vote together a lot. And so I can see sometimes it's just just him out there, just like, well,
yeah. But yeah, so like we're all very strong-willed, but at the same time, you have to know that, like, I'm not, you know, omniscient where I know everything, and you can't be like that.
Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
I mean, thanks so much.
You know, the lemonade's remarkable, but the story is really great. I mean, like, your consistent desire to offer a quality product, quality experience, you know, that is the thing that Roy's becomes known for, right? Like, not just, you know, not just the great lemonade, but also if you're at an event, there'll be enough people there. There'll be enough, like, you know, the cups that people want to hold on to all the time. So, well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thanks. I've really enjoyed it. I hope I haven't been too chatty, but
it's awesome. This has been great. This has been great. So thank you for joining us. I'm sorry that I don't know how to operate microphones and whatever else, but hopefully whatever part that everyone catches is wonderful. And we will not be doing a session next Tuesday, but what we're going to do is sprinkle out some previously recorded sessions and just kind of bump them up in our feed. So please go ahead and catch all of those. But thank you for being here.
Thanks. Thank y'all.
Grab this real quick. Thanks, Gav, for catching that.
Thank you so much.
Whenever.